Hello, my name is Seth Samuel and I live in Colorado, and I am a composer, and I'm the composer for Deep Look. So the job of a score composer is to create the music that you hear behind everything that happens on the screen. The music helps you know what's going on, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, how characters are feeling. I think film music often kind of blends in. You don't even realize it's there. It's like subconscious, I guess. You know it's a villain, and the music's just kind of subtly reminding you that it's the villain. I think Deep Look, I'm not so subtle that much. This is my setup in my home studio. I have my big heavy keyboard. I have a big computer, and this is just a monitor. It's not a second computer, it's just a monitor. So I can, the mouse can go from one screen to the other. And my keyboard's plugged into the computer. So I have thousands and thousands of instruments, virtual instruments on my computer. And for this particular score, I chose about 50 of them, and I can kind of give you a little tour of the instruments on this score about wormlions. I used some violins. Etc. That's the violin section. Then I use these really high strings called the string harmonics. I like to use those for really tense moments. Here's pizzicato strings. When I say strings, I mean basses, cellos, violas, and violins. So this is the whole section of them plucking, and that sounds like this. And when it's low, it sounds pretty cool too. It's a pretty important instrument for this score. Also, strings playing with their bows. You've seen, that's not a very good miming, but it's something like that. That sounds like this. Here. Make it a little louder. The timpani, I use that in every Deep Look score. So here I'm using this little knob here to tell the computer how loud I want the timpani to be. And when I let go, just one hit. I really like that instrument. And then just timpani is just hitting individual notes. The score starts with this instrument. It's kind of a glass bell instrument called a Morpheus. Here. It's a really pretty one, I think. Okay, a really important one for this score is the low brass, meaning tubas and trombones, and French horns, and playing short notes like this. I actually happen to be a trombone player as well, so I think it's okay for me to say I think this is like a very evil sounding section. It's kind of scary, I think. It's like, uh-oh. I really like that. I use that a lot in this score. And then for sad moments, I use the Tubular Bells, which you hit with a hammer actually. And that sounds like this. And I think that's a really good instrument for like death or sadness, because it sounds like a church, or it sounds like a graveyard. Like you'd hear this in a church at a funeral. So I use that for a sad moment in the score. I use some bassoons. For this score I often do kind of a duet, so it's like just two notes at the same time for bassoons. I don't know, there's 50 instruments here. I don't think I'm gonna show you every single one, but those are some of the cool ones. Well, real quick, I used a pipe organ and I added an echo to it. So when I play a note, you'll hear the note, but then it'll go dot, dot, dot. I think that's a really good one. That wasn't a very good chord. Yeah, so that's some of the instruments just in this score. Every score I use a different collection of instruments. Yeah. So maybe let's watch a scene. And so when I first get the episode, there's no music at all, and they haven't done the sound effects either, so it's just totally silent. And then it's my job to add all of the music for the background. So here's a scene, and first we'll play it without music, so you can see what it looks like when I first receive it. So here you go.
This ant is totally clueless. Almost out. The wormlion strikes like a cobra, injecting venom into its prey to paralyze it. It constricts the ant, dragging it under, until it's all over.
And now here's the scene with the music.
This ant is totally clueless. The wormlion strikes like a cobra, injecting venom into its prey to paralyze it. It constricts the ant, dragging it under, until it's all over.
Okay, so let me show you what you just heard. So I should have introduced this instrument earlier, the Glockenspiel, because I use the Glockenspiel for the ant. That sounds like this by itself. So the Glockenspiel is it's kind of like a xylophone, and it's just a very high-pitched bell that you hit with a stick. I'm just playing it on the keyboard here, but... So I use that instrument for the ant, and I chose it because it's small and high-pitched and delicate and, you know, defenseless, like this poor little ant. So that sounds like this. And then there's also, I just called it echoey thing. It's just kind of a synthesizer that my computer created. And that sounds like this. I think, to me, it sounds kind of like flutes, but it's not really flutes. And the reason I chose that sound is because it sounds, I don't know, to me that sounds kind of like shivering, like it's like anxious. It's like an anxious sound. And this is an anxious scene because the ant is about to be, you know, attacked. It doesn't know that, but the audience knows that, so we're feeling anxious, so that's why I chose this instrument. So that plus the Glockenspiel sounds like this. Oh, sorry, one second. So that's the little ant, that's the Glockenspiel, and then feeling anxious is that echoey thing. I also have this electric keyboard called a Wurlitzer, and it sounds like this. That's just kind of giving the score rhythm and a speed. I don't know, that's helping the music to move forward, I guess. I guess that's its job in the score. So that, plus the echoey thing, plus the Glockenspiel, sounds like this. And I also have these stomps and claps, which is just, and snaps. And that sounds like this. Oh, and there's a bongo there too. So that sounds like this. So all together that sounds like I just want to play the whole scene again and then talk about it, I guess. So you can hear the Glockenspiel. Here's the ant kind of crawls across. And then some strings started plucking, some high strings for more anxiety. And right there, at that moment, I have a gong hit, and the gong sounds like this. I love a gong. And it just means, like, I don't know, chaos and madness and, I don't know, fear. Because that worm lion has just erupted out of the ground, so I think the gong is what needs to happen. And you can hear that low brass. I love that low brass. It just sounds like that. It just, evil. It just sounds evil to me because it's big and scary and menacing. And I have lots of percussion happening too, which sounds like this. So the percussion plus the gong plus the low brass sounds like this. And I don't know if you noticed, but the music also got a lot faster there, like from before that scene. Because it's something more action-packed. This is a fight scene. The ant's really trying to escape. And now here comes, the music gets much faster, and then the drums get more intense, and then I add this tuba, which sounds like this. And I also added a timpani, so timpani plus tuba sounds like this. This is a big fight scene, and fight scenes, I think, need a lot of percussion. That's just my opinion. And yeah, so the thrashing around. Still thrashing around. And then the action kind of stops there because there's been that's kind of like the climax of the fight scene, I think, when the worm lion finally just, I guess, hits the ant. And I have another gong hit there. I don't know if you heard it. It sounds like this. Right when the worm lion hits the ant. Yeah. And then I have kind of the worm lion's theme play right there because it's successful. I mean, I call this like the worm lion's evil victory fanfare because it's scary, but it's like success. The villain has succeeded. I guess the worm lion's kind of the villain of the story. And then you hear the tubular bells, which sounds like the church bells I mentioned earlier. Because the ant is, going to be eaten, so it is dead. Yeah, so that's the end of the scene. So it was really fun to do this. I really like this work, and maybe some of you would be interested in this kind of work when you grow up. Anyway, if you have any more questions, just let me know. Thank you.